and welcome to this Photoshop texture tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at textures and how to use them to add great effects to your images. We'll be using a photo I took of a seaplane at Universal Studios and adding textures to give the impression that the photo is older than it is, and the effect will also suggest that the photo was taken early evening as the sun was setting. The first thing we need to do is open our seaplane photo and the crumpled paper image, which we'll be using as our first texture. Many people use just one image as their texture, but in this case we're going to overlay two images to achieve the effect that we want. You can lay as many textures over an image as you like. You're not limited to just one. Copy the crumpled paper image and paste it onto the seaplane photo. This texture is the same size as the seaplane photo, so there's no need for us to resize it. Ensure the crumpled paper layer is selected in the Layers palette and choose Hard Light from the Blending Mode pop-up menu. We could choose any of the other options in the Blending Mode menu, but Hard Light is the choice for this texture. Looking at the image, we can now see the photo through the texture, but it's a little harsh, so we need to change the opacity slightly. Let's drop the opacity to 80%. As you can see, the paper texture has covered the entire surface of the photo. So ideally we want to remove some of the texture from the plane itself, but at the same time we want to keep the colour of the texture that's shown on the plane to give the effect of the sun reflecting off the surface. There are a number of ways in which you can remove texture, and in this tutorial I'll show you two different ways. Firstly, we need to open a new document that's roughly the same size as the image we're working with. Choose New from the File menu and then enter 1100 pixels for width and 700 pixels for height and click OK. Choose any colour you like as the foreground colour in the toolbox. Click on the Paint Bucket tool and fill the document with whichever colour you chose. Now we need to select the Healing Brush tool, hold down your Alt key, I think this is the same for both Mac and Windows, and roughly click in the middle of your coloured document. Photoshop will now use this colour as a texture reference. Now go back to the plane document and use the Healing Brush tool over the entire plane. You don't need to be 100% accurate when doing this. You'll notice that the texture is removed, but the colour of the texture stays intact. There is also an area in the background, as you'll notice here, which looks a little odd due to the texture. So we need to run our healing brush over this area to get rid of the texture but keep the colour. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be using two different images as textures, so we now need to open our second texture image, copy it and then paste it over our first texture. This texture is slightly bigger than our photo, so we'll need to resize it. This time we will choose Overlay from the Blending Mode pop-up menu in the Layers palette. As you'll notice, this has made the image quite bright with blown out highlights. So we'll want to bring down the lightness of this texture layer to not only tone down the bright areas, but also exaggerate the shadow on the plane itself to give the effect of early evening. Click on the Image menu and choose Adjustments. Then click on the Hue Saturation option, click on the Lightness slider and drag it to -50 and then click OK. You'll notice that this makes the texture layer slightly darker, emphasises the orange colour, and accentuates the shadows on the plane, which gives it an evening feel. Adding this texture layer has created an ink splatter look on the plane, so we need to remove some of the texture to get rid of this. Instead of doing it in the same way as we did before, we're going to add a layer mask. Make sure the top layer is selected in the Layers palette, and then click on Add Layer Mask. Choose the brush tool from your toolbox. I'm going to choose a soft brush at 62. Ensure Normal is selected for brush mode and set the brush opacity to 100%. Hold down your mouse button and then move the brush over the plane surface. Once again, you don't need to be 100% accurate. To finish the image off, click on your background layer in the Layers palette, then click on the Filter menu, choose Sharpen, and then Sharpen again, and this will add just a little bit more clarity to the final image. There you have it. You now know how to add textures to your images. The nice thing about textures is that you can create your own. You could buy or find them on the internet, but if you have a camera, you can take a photo of any texture, download your image to your computer, and use it as your own. The best thing to do is build up a portfolio of textures so you can pick and choose whenever you like, whether you take a photo of wood, grass, brick, or a crumpled piece of paper. You can use them all as textures. How cool is that? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.